Hello, hello, welcome to our channel, another Saturday, and we are within the Fear Inoculum album. We've listened to Fear Inoculum and Numa. Today I will listen to, let me just,
Litanie contre la peur.
I don't know if you could hear it well, but that's some intro, my understanding from French, before the Invincible song. What this intro mean?
So the title of that song means in English Litany Against Fear, and I'm not
Nice.
sure it's intro per se. It's definitely kind of like a break between two longer songs like Numa and Invincible.
Nice, lovely. Sounds good. We are still within this kind of fear atmosphere throughout the Fear Inoculum. Lovely. As always, thank you so much for all your comments, for your engagement. Thank you to our patrons. If you would like to support us, the link will be under the video. And yeah, I'm ready to start. I have my lyrics open, so let's do it.
I'd just say one more thing
Okay.
about the video version of Danny Carey and Numa, because
Oh,
there's
yeah,
still
true.
been plenty of comments, and I'm not sure if we mentioned this in the previous video, but I think we will do reaction to that video after a few songs, a few further songs on Fear Inoculum, so not today, because I've seen many people thought we'll do it just after Numa, but I think we'll give it more break.
Oh yeah, I hope you don't mind. It will come, it will come. I really want to watch it, especially after all those comments and recommendations. But for today, we're just gonna go through Fear Inoculum album, so let's do it.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I won't be doing any breaks between those two.
But will you let me know?
Yeah, I mean,
Cool.
you'll find out. Okay.
Okay. I'm just gonna move it.
And it's about to start.
I really, really like it already.
and soul, longing for another wind.
That is so, so nice.
Lurch into the fray, weapon out and belly in. Warrior, struggling to remain consequential. Low, loud, bold and
Okay, let me try to move it first. We have some new device. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm not sure if I can use it properly. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're not using it properly, I think.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Ultimately, it's just to kind of improve it, you know. I really, really enjoyed the song. And you know what? I really enjoyed his voice. It was so different in comparison to Numa. That was my first thought. Because, you know, in Numa, the song was speaking for itself, that the music, right? The instruments. In here, I had his voice again. It was so good. Oh, it was absolutely brilliant, especially the very first top part of the song. His voice was mesmerizing. I really enjoyed that. It was really good, you know? Really good listen.
You mean like smooth?
Yeah, but also it just made me feel so, so good. I really like the song. And I think it may have a lot to do with his voice, you know? Let's try from the beginning, because I've been also making, like, trying to make notes throughout. Because we've started with this French litany contre la peur. It was, I wouldn't say it was fearful. And you know, because of this litany, I thought it can be treated some kind of as an intro to Invincible.
But it
But
means litany against fear. So I think it wasn't
yeah,
meant to be fearful.
yeah. Oh yeah, true. Litany against the fear. But still, it should have some kind of this fearfulness, shouldn't it, as a litany itself? It's always litany. It's always really strong.
Maybe it's because it's between Numa and first fear inoculum, and now the song is called Invincible. So maybe it is kind of there to overcome that fear, especially that the song is about like a warrior.
That's what I thought, and that's why I thought. That's why I thought why it's gonna be really linked to two previous songs. You know, we had this kind of injection of fear, the emphasis of a fear and fear inoculum. Then we had Numa, where I even had the feeling that Numa is some kind of discovery, kind of embracing those fears. Then we had this litany, and then we had Invincible. So I thought it would be interlinked. And I had probably this assumption somewhere in my head, and I thought that Invincible will be just this state where you completely overcome you, and you know you have no fears, because you no longer have any fears, because you're invincible. You are so strong. There's nothing that could stand on your way. But actually, in the song, I had it when I was listening and looking at the lyrics. I had completely different feelings, so that puzzled me a little bit. Let's go in here, just so I could kind of refer to the actual particular words, because he says that he's been a warrior, he's been invincible once. So it's more like a retrospection of how he felt. Like he felt like he's got no fears, you know, like nothing can stop him. But it's not actually the case. So it was kind of contrary to what I was expecting. What would you say?
I'm I have quite different overview on that. So
Okay.
I think the fear in I have a way to connect those three songs. So
Okay.
fear inoculum, like you said, injected the fear. Then Numa, I have now a different kind of different view on Numa itself. So let's say fear inoculum injected the fear. Then Numa injected you the appreciation for life. So you have something to fear about of losing your life, for example. And now Invincible is kind of I take it as an example of the archetype of hero journey. So the hero in hero journey, the main character must show some fear, must show some appreciation to life, like in Numa, and then he has to overcome the problems he's facing, and then he is transformed and often coming back, so other people could see him as a figure of someone who've been there and
Okay.
done great things. So that's how I see that. Like the Numa
Really?
was kind of a thing to give the purpose or give the something
Mhm.
to fear about, and now he's overcoming that fear, but still having this in mind. Like, without a fear, that's what I'm thinking. Without any fear, you are not really appreciating anything. You need something to fear about in order to do great things.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
Yeah, I think I get your main theme. Yeah, that's true. And you need to have this fear, but I don't know. I just. So this, Invincible, do you reckon it's almost like a praise to someone who stands as invincible, who appreciated those, things that they may lose through all those fears, and it's literally like praise to someone really really strong, someone who stands as a hero. Am I getting this right?
I'm not sure. It's
Because
more like I was trying to say that it is in order to be invincible, you like having no fear is not a prerequisite to be invincible. You can still win things without being fearless, kind of.
okay, because there is a few tricky parts in the song that wouldn't make me feel this way. The one that I picked up as well was Caligula would grin. So I'm not sure if everyone knows who Caligula is, right? But
Was.
was, yes. But from what I remember, it was a really horrible, horrible person, the Roman Empire,
I'm
who
not.
had extremely horrible attitude and done loads of horrible things. And Caligula would laugh at the things and, would be kind of happy if he would hear about the things that he've done in Invincible. So that's
He-
why it doesn't really
I remember
fit.
he was very cruel, but
Yeah.
I don't remember
And
the details.
selfish. I've watched. It was ages ago. It was really really old movie about him, and I think he burned his mother. He burned so many people. He had such a cruel way of living. We can. Would you like to Google it actually?
I know he was, I think, murdered, but I don't know too. I mean, it's gonna be quite a long story about him. I don't think we can.
Yeah.
Unless you want to Google, I don't feel I'm gonna be able to find some.
Because he says tales old of battles won, all things we've done. Caligula would grin.
So yeah, so I think the person who is singing or who is telling the story is saying that yeah, he was invincible. Like you said at the beginning, he's saying that he didn't fear anything. He was very fight first kind of person, like weapon first, belly in. And he's done some very bad stuff, and now it looks like he's not proud of it. He's done some so bad stuff that even Caligula would grin. So like you said, if Caligula was very cruel person, so it means he's done some cruel
I
things.
would even go further and say psychopath in a sense, from what I
Probably.
remember. So he was type of a psychopath Roman emperor who done loads of horrible things and who enjoyed. I think he enjoyed fear and enjoyed the cruelty, itself, the doing harm to others. That's what he enjoyed,
But
and he would grin
reading
with the
now,
things he've done.
I think this whole song might be kind of a testament of testimony rather of some person who is seeing that he was wrong the whole life, because the verse "but the truth never got in my way" is like saying he was living a lie, kind of.
Yeah, I think you may actually be right, and it may be much deeper. And it's just like it's just a metaphor. Warrior struggling to remain consequential. So he also expresses that he was still going despite probably starting realizing about certain things he've done that are completely cruel, that are horrible, that aren't really in line with values, with good values, you can say. But he was consequential, and probably maybe like you said, till the almost the end of the life, he went through life with these feelings, and then at the very end he finally realized, and that's where this testimony is. I really like it, like the way you took it. I would also want to go a bit further down because the later the song really changed, and we had like completely, we had a drop, and then the whole song was much more stronger, and we had
There's been actually quite a few like drops. Like there's been quite a few almost complete stops of the song, and then there was complete change of
Yeah.
the theme, kind of.
Yeah, but what I picked up most was like the complete change, I'd say, the harmony that I felt before from the moment he was chasing the Ponce de Leon. So Tears in My Eyes, chasing Ponce de Leon's Phantom Soul. I had no idea who Ponce de Leon is. I have to be honest. It was a former governor of Puerto Rico. I don't know if you knew as well. And it was also the explorer and conquistador known for leading the first official European expedition to Florida and serving as the first governor of Puerto Rico. I also Googled this while we've been listening because I was really interested. So that's also this kind of big persona, this kind of military type of idol, right? That he refers to. And filled with hope, I can taste my mythical fountains. False hope, perhaps, but the truth never got in my way. So again, it's like realization that perhaps all he was doing, that maybe he just thought he's invincible this whole time, but actually he realized at the end it's completely wrong. What I've been doing was wrong. It was immoral, pretty
But he's still
for
not
for a,
completely convinced that he was wrong. He's saying things like false hope, perhaps. Like it's not.
Mhm.
It's still not decisive that he was wrong. Like
Yeah.
he kind of saying he was wrong, but I don't see too much of remorse in those words.
So when you probably know you are wrong, but you are still trying to justify it, to some kind of take of this responsibility. So maybe he's at this point where he's not actually there yet. That's the moment when you technically realize, but you still stand in your ground,
Yeah,
It
on
happens
the
pretty often in therapy as well. When you're addicted, for example, and you're during the process of therapy, unless you will finally realize, you not even just realize, but you need to be convinced yourself that you want to change, right? So sometimes you know the arguments up front and you can kind of rationalize them, but you don't really
so it's kind of like
believe in them. You still.
intellectual understanding versus emotional attachment to something. That even though you, like you said, even though you know what truth is in that context, but you still make different decision because of your possibly uh, deeper beliefs that are still false.
Hmm. Yeah. Which are kind of outgrowing at that point in time. The
But maybe so. The title of the song is Invincible. He sees that he was perhaps wrong. Truth never stand in the way, and even now he is kind of invincible to that way of life. So even though he sees he was wrong on one level, he still cannot give up being
Yes.
invincible because
Yeah.
because admitting he's wrong would mean losing for him, kind
Yeah.
of.
So it's more like an internal dialogue, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So completely opposite to what I thought the song will be about when I've seen the title and when I've listened to Fear Inoculum and Numa at the beginning, and then obviously this short one. Internal dialogue. I think that perhaps is the good explanation of it, which I really like. By the way, I really enjoyed the song, and I enjoyed the struggle throughout. The struggle within the lyrics that was presented, because even though he's still invincible, he actually not acknowledging the truth. Maybe he knows it, he can comprehend it, and he can see it. He's just not accepting it in a way.
Maybe next song will be continuation of that. Actually,
Maybe. What's the next song on the album?
I think it's
Let me see.
Descending. But let me.
We have Legion, Inoculant, and then Descending, yeah. Legion, Inoculant, again, a strange name. So I'm assuming it will be short, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even, at the moment when we are listening to the last album, I can have a feeling, more or less, when we're gonna have this like short kind of musical type of let's call it song, and when we're gonna have the actual proper song by looking at the titles, which I find really
Which next would you
interesting.
say will be just
Let's try. We have then Colin Voices, Chocolate Chip Trip, Seven Tempest, Mocking Beat.
yeah? Which one would you say are just stops or just
Chocolate Chip Trip.
yeah?
Is it right?
Yeah, and one more.
Nice. Yeah, because Chocolate Chip Trip, it sounds almost too funny to be a real long song, you know? Seven Tempest, Mocking Beat
Yeah,
is going to be the short one.
yeah.
Ah, nice. I got it, you see. Oh, exciting. To be honest, I think we were quite good with Invincible. If I can say anything more, I would only say that it's not what I expected by the title. It's more of internal dialogue and even internal fight. You know, when you are at this point, each of us, when we are going through some struggle, when we do something that perhaps is wrong, but we don't know it yet completely, or we know it, but we just don't want to accept that. That's when we are usually having those internal dialogues, and that's when we struggle. So, not necessarily Invincible is about the actual warrior, the metaphorical reflection of someone really strong who's going through struggles. But for me, it's more of someone who only thinks it's just a facade, and he thinks that he's invincible going through life, but actually the life is probably false on many different levels, and he's struggling with his internal fears as well, and with facing the truth.
But he also gives a little bit of justification or explanation of why he did what he did or why he lived how he lived. So the kind of the main theme of the song, warriors. So he's the warrior, kind of struggling to remain relevant. So he was doing probably this to be to to remain relevant and then to remain consequential. So it's maybe like this was an only way to become or to remain relevant, because otherwise the society or the bigger context, the people around him didn't value admitting to being wrong. So he
Maybe.
had to double down.
Or maybe to remain consequential. To be honest, I looked at it from slightly different perspective. I had in my mind some people I know that will remain consequential no matter what, in the sense that they won't admit they are wrong. They have their own way. They're really stubborn type of people, and that's why they want to remain consequential no matter what. Perhaps I can actually realize, I can understand that what I'm doing is probably wrong, but I'm not going to admit it because this is me, and I don't want other people to see me as weak, because they think maybe it's some sign of weakness, or maybe it's some sign of giving up or defeat.
So you're saying, if I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that being consistent is part of their identity, because if they admit to changing their mind, they fear of being what, of being like what would happen if they said they are wrong.
That's the thing. We're not sure what exact struggle is, right? But if it's pushing you to do some really wrong, sometimes irrational things, then you must really fear to admit that you've been wrong this whole time. It must be extreme fear as well. But
What's the source of that fear?
I'm trying to think of some kind of example. What I'm thinking right now is my little brother, but I don't think it's the proper one, because he's really young, and he's really stubborn, and I remember and recall the situation. I think you recall it as well, when I had a bit of a disagreement with him. I wanted to help him and improve some way of dealings with things that that he had, which was completely incorrect, but he didn't want to admit it no matter what. It was really hard for him to actually admit that he was wrong, even though I had nothing bad in mind and all I wanted to do was help.
But
For
do you
some
think?
reason, he felt that it was really hard to kind of accept it and I
But
feel he
maybe
felt as
maybe
he was
he wasn't.
defeated. Yeah, it's
Sorry to
okay.
interrupt. Maybe he just a feed for thought. Maybe
Mhm.
he wasn't convinced he was wrong. Maybe he didn't know he's wrong.
That's the problem, and that's maybe the struggle he had. Like in Invincible, he could appreciate what I was saying, and he could appreciate that my way of doing things was right, and he could actually, on purely rational level, he knew that it's right. Yet he didn't want to accept it as right, and he was telling himself.
But in that case, there was a matter of another person's influence, because if I remember the situation
Mhm.
correctly, his his thinking was influenced by another person, not you, not yourself,
Mhm.
and by admitting that what you were saying was correct, he would have to at the same time automatically admit that what that third person was
Mhm.
saying was incorrect, kind of invalidating the influence of that person. And maybe that was like, that's my analysis at least, that
Uh-huh.
the biggest obstacle for him to admit that he was wrong was kind of that he would have.
Detached himself from this and kind of maybe, or not even fear, of defeat, but feeling like you cheated on somebody in a sense, right?
Yes, or
Oh yeah,
not valuing
yeah.
that person's
But that's the
enough.
thing. That's the thing. Isn't it what the song can be about as well? Because why you are warriors? You never worry.
I don't
Probably
think.
there are people that have certain worldview and they are going through life with certain minds, but they always have this influence from the outside world. They, as they develop, they are getting these new experiences into their head thanks to somebody else. So we are societal creatures and it's all interlinked. So
Yeah, I wouldn't even say that has
you
to
know.
be about warrior. Warrior is just
Hmm.
a word to say that it can be looked as a fight. Like the whole situation
Yeah.
can be looked as a fighting against something
Yeah.
or with something.
Yeah, and I really like where we got to, because we got to the point where, because I thought it's a fight against, admitting you're wrong, feeling as you've been defeated, but it may be actually something else, fear from not only losing your own ground, but fear from cheating on somebody else who
Or
you don't want to cheat on in
giving
that
up
sense.
giving up your
Mm.
ideals. So I think a good example, but slightly political, so not ideal, could be like if you were voting to one party
Mhm.
your whole life,
Mhm.
and you kind of see, and let's say this party got into the power,
Mhm.
some power, and they're doing things you don't really appreciate. Like deep down in your heart, you see
Mhm.
what they're doing is wrong, but you still would have to admit that you were wrong in order to
Mhm.
stop supporting them. And it is like, yeah, I don't know where I was going with this
I
example,
know,
but
and
there's so
that's what
many.
Invincible is about. That's the struggle when you're at the point when you actually realize that you disagree with this party, but you've been voting on them your whole life. So you kind of feel like maybe
Religion can be another thing.
yes, and you can be also afraid of judgment. What others gonna think if I'm gonna vote for somebody else now?
Yeah, now you
So
are not consequential.
exactly,
Now why?
exactly.
Yeah,
That's why even though, and you try and also to rationalize, to maintain in the same pose, to stay consequential in what you're doing, and you are trying to rationalize it by not accepting that you may be wrong. That's really interesting, and yeah, that's what I think the song is about. In any event, I don't know, because I don't know how long we've been discussing this already. Maybe it's time to kind of stop and put a stop right now. And
we are at barely 45 minutes.
oh, that's nice. Then that's not bad. But I feel like I feel quite good. I feel like I've said all I wanted to say, and I really, really enjoyed the song and his voice again.
Maybe you can say something about the first song, the first short piece.
That's the thing. I don't know if I'm gonna have much to say. I was expecting. I know it's a litany against the fear, but I was expecting something fearful.
So do you remember
Something.
Negative Ions?
I do remember. It's hard to forget. Yes.
Yeah, but for me, this one was much nicer.
Yes, it was. It definitely
It
was.
was very
Minus
nice.
ions. Yeah, I couldn't really. It was hard for me. It was hard for my ears. This one was okay. It was just, I'd say, maybe
Some people
too
say
short.
those. Some people say those interim songs are for to cleanse your palate of of sounds you're hearing.
Mhm.
So in Numa, you
Mhm.
had this rhythm, you had those guitars, like there was whole spectrum of things, and now you've got this peaceful thing to reset you, your
Yeah.
mind, your everything, so you can almost like start clean with listening to
Yeah.
Invincible. I quite like this.
Yeah, that I like this idea, and maybe that's a point, right? And yeah, probably that's what it is there for. Because after litany, I could really feel difference, completely different. The palette of sounds, etc. So it makes sense, really. But with cleansing after negative ions, my ears were cleansed. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, let us know what you think. As always, thank you so much for all your comments. I don't know what do you think about the song and whether you like the discussion. I personally really like this because I can kind of interlink the song and what I've been discussing with my kind of personal circumstances to the extent.
And I think we changed our view of our initial view of that song, which is good. I
I think
definitely
you
did.
could say a bit more because obviously you know the
So
song,
my
but I
first,
just had this.
I always thought it's about hero journey because I never really dive deep into the lyrics. I always just heard this like warrior struggling,
Yeah.
and my mind just went into the interpretation of looking at this as a hero journey example. And now when actually we read the lyrics and discussed them, I have totally different. I have to admit I was wrong, so that's nice. So I'm not invincible.
I mean, obviously, I never heard the song, but just by the title, I probably thought it will be about the same thing, about a hero. It will be appreciation to the hero, to the strong attributes of you as a human, of to kind of appreciation to the difficult stuff you went through and that you've been still holding on. So kind of completely different. And I went into this reaction today, perhaps with this feeling because of the title itself. So look how biased I could be if we wouldn't really like focus on lyrics. So that's another thing. Yeah. As always, thank you so much for being with us. And I think we're gonna finish now. I think I want to listen to this song again right after because I absolutely enjoyed his voice. So see you next week.